All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel. Look, over the last 24 hours, the stock market has given us a massive clue about what the future could look like for stock market investors going forward. And I'm not going to lie, I think this is a pretty good sign. And so in today's video, we're going to go over exactly what this clue was, what it could mean for the market moving forward, what I personally am doing in my own stock market portfolio as a result of it, and what I'm planning on doing in the future. So we have a good bit to get into today. So let's jump into a little bit of context and a bit of a recap as to what's been going on over the last 24 hours, and this clue will start to make much more sense afterwards. So first and foremost, what we can see is that, yeah, it's been a crazy couple of days in the stock market, right? If we actually look at the general price action, the fact that we saw the S&P 500 fall from $609 all the way down to $578 over the course of just a couple of days to then rally all the way back up to $606 is just nuts. I mean, we're talking about swings from the S&P 500 of over 5% over the span of just a couple of days. I mean, these were big moves. Now, the reason the market has been moving like this is because of what's going on over in Iran. So what you can see is that if we actually just look at general price performance, you can see that we got a couple red days followed by a couple green days, and now we're seeing a bit of a red day right now. And that's because the Iran situation is extremely volatile. So at the beginning of the week on Monday, Trump came out and actually said that Iran's president asked for a ceasefire, but that the US wanted the Hormuz Strait open first. Now, this actually sent the market in a bit of a frenzy. What you can see is as a result of this news, we saw the S&P 500 literally just go vertical. This bad boy in over the span of just a couple hours saw a move of about 3%, which is big in this market. Okay, that sent individual stocks up. We saw some stocks up 10 to 15%. This was big news because a lot of people thought, hey, maybe all of this craziness is coming to an end. But of course, people were like, well, at the end of the day, though, although they're asking for a ceasefire, doesn't mean that one is coming. It could just be an option that's on the table. Well, just about 12 to 24 hours later, Iran came out and basically said, hey, we didn't ask for that. Don't put words in our mouth. And Trump then went on to say, okay, how about this? I'm about to issue the last final blow then. We're about to take this to a whole nother level. And next thing you know, you see Tehran starting to increase the size of their strikes and all hell breaks loose again. And so as a result of this, next thing you know, the stock market starts to pull back a little bit. And over the last 4 hours, at one point, we saw a pretty sizable pullback. Like over 8 hours, we saw the S&P 500 fall about 2%, erasing some of those gains from yesterday. So it has been madness, okay? It has just been flat out, full out chaos, madness, volatility, whatever word you want to use as a result of this situation. Now, you may be sitting here wondering, well, okay, well, now we know why the market's been so volatile, but Tyler, how does this mean that there's, it's given us a clue? What is this clue that you're hinting about, and how in the world could it be good for the stock market moving forward? And it's a great question, so let's dive into that. So the clue that I'm referring to is how the market responded to the news that there could possibly be a bit of a ceasefire. Because again, Trump never said, hey, there's a ceasefire. He never even said that they agreed to a ceasefire. Matter of fact, he did quite the opposite. He says, they want a ceasefire, but we want, never mind, I'm not going to do the Trump voice, my bad. But he basically said, we want the Strait of Hormuz open first. We're not going for a ceasefire right now. But even at the inclination that this could be coming to a resolve soon, the fact that this could be coming to an end sometime soon, we saw the S&P 500 fly up, and we saw many individual stocks performing incredibly well. Now, this, in my opinion, is a fantastic clue of what we can expect in the future. Because the fact that we saw the market respond so positively to this news means that this whole Iran conflict, this whole situation has been one of the more isolated events that's really adding pressure to the stock market right now. Because a lot of people like to say, well, realistically, the stock market would have crashed or it would have started to fall whether or not this whole Iran situation happened, right? Many people are, of course, pointing at inflation. Many people are pointing at labor markets. Many people are pointing at lacking of liquidity, lacking of capital, lacking of injections, whatever. People are pointing at all these other things and saying, well, no, the Iran situation had maybe made it worse, but the market would have been crashing anyway. But the fact that we saw the market return and rally so hard, so fast at the idea that a ceasefire could be coming soon tells me that when this situation does clear up, when we do get past the volatility and the chaos of this situation, I think that will be a major constraint really lifted off the market, and the stock market could really start to try to rally after that. Now, the truth is that I don't think it will be immediate, right? Because we all know how buy the rumor, sell the news works, and there is a very real world actually in which this whole Iran conflict ends, the market goes down, then starts to rally. But I think yesterday was a massive clue, a massive signal to say, hey, listen, When this whole Iran conflict does come to an end, that is going to be the main major weight lifted off the market. And that could open us up for some beautiful moves. And it makes a ton of sense, right? Because think about what we've been talking about recently. The daily RSI reached the lowest level that it had been in over 350 days not too long ago. The daily Bollinger Bands were overextended to the downside to a level in which they hadn't been in a very long time. The weekly Bollinger Bands reached the bottom side of this envelope for the very first time since March of 2025. All of this meaning that the market got extremely overextended. It went really far down really fast. And when you have a market that overcorrects to the downside like this, crashes like this, and is so overextended into these lower levels that it could just feel the bounce starting to return, I think that's going to be a further catalyst that when this Iran conflict does start to ease up, we see this overextension result in a big move back to the upside. Now, that's obviously not guaranteed, and that's pure speculation at its finest, but you have to take these things into consideration, and you have to consider and say, look, this was the biggest move that we've seen from the S&P 500 all month. This was the fastest move that it's made realistically since back in November of 2025, and that happened at simply the idea that a ceasefire could be on the table. So what's going to happen when this whole Iran conflict eases up? What's going to happen when we actually start to see some of this uncertainty clear about the market? I think it could be great things. And that just goes to further show that these purchases that we've been doing, these buys that we've been doing into the S&P 500, into SoFi, into some of these other stocks easily could really turn into some profit, because my whole thesis has been consistently, I believe this whole Iran conflict is a short-term problem that is creating a long-term opportunity. And seeing performance from the stock market like we saw yesterday just further confirms that for me. And so if we do see, of course, this whole thing just heat up again and Trump say this and they say this and all this, whatever, and the stock market falls again, guess what? I'm going in bigger. I'm buying more. I'm buying harder, because this shows me that these purchases, again, these short-term problems with the Iran conflict are leading to long-term opportunities. And we were able to see some fantastic return from that just over the last couple of days. And so I think this is a great clue from the stock market. I think this just goes to show that there is a lot of opportunity in these pullbacks and in these crashes, and I am going to continue to capitalize on them in my own portfolio. And so one way in which I am doing that is just doing some buying. For example, just yesterday, I did reinvest some of my dividends. So I got paid out a dividend from the S&P 500. Where is it at? Right here. I got a $1,100.80 dividend from the S&P 500 on the 31st. And guess what, guys? I went in and I just bought it all back. I took that $1,180, threw it all back in, bought another 1.83 shares of the S&P 500. And it was roughly at the price that we're at right now. But I don't care, because again, remember, I think this is creating opportunity and I want to take advantage of it. So I am actually really liking what we're seeing here from the market. I think this was a great recovery. I think it's showing some very good signs, and I'm going to continue to try to take advantage of it. And so I am actually planning on doing some other purchasing pretty soon as well, if I get the opportunity, maybe buying a little Robinhood, buying a little SoFi for sure, and maybe even a little bit of Apple as well. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to keep updated with the moves that I personally am making. One thing I did want to do is say a massive thank you to all of you who have been subscribing to the channel. Remember, this is a brand new channel. I started it a little bit over 1 month ago. We're already at 250 subscribers. So for all of you who have joined the journey, thank you so much. Genuinely, I do appreciate it. It's cool. I'm glad you guys enjoy the insights. So yeah, subscribe to the channel if you want more. Let me know down below if you are taking into consideration the sort of price action that we saw yesterday and its impact or the insight that it could give us into the market moving forward. Let me know your thoughts about that down there. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's quick update. See ya, everybody.